On August the 29th, 26 days later, we were driving down the main street of Teaneck, New Jersey with all of our belongings, looking for a place to rest for the night. It took us 26 days from beginning to end. Now, I don't advise people to just jump at every whim that comes. I'm suggesting you can get so you live in this realm of guidance and spirit. You get sharp-eyed. You get so you can tell the difference between a whim of desire and an illumination from another dimension. And you can learn to live and flow in a way that to the outside world you look like you are off the wall. But in fact, the path of joy enters your life. Now, this is tricky because it has to harmonize with the Word of God. It can't be in conflict with the law. It has to be a sense of why you're doing it is for the cause of God. It can't just be because there's some interesting things in another place. No, it's got to be tied to your mission, to your part to play in God's unfolding plan. So, I didn't mean to get too far off.
That's fine.
We'll get back on. Let's go to quote number 85.
Actually, I know we have a lot left in this portion, but I feel compelled to ask another, maybe a more practical nuts and bolts question. What if you're an individual who, let's say, is married or has a family, and then you have this compulsion to do something, but it's not sanctioned by either your partner or the other members of your family? Then what do you do?
Well, unity of family is to take precedence over these kinds of inclinations. So you want to be sure you marry somebody in the first place. And I want to say this to all the youth out there. This thing about getting married is not about finding someone who is very cute and seems to be very pleasant. It's about a mission of life. It's about a partner that you go through the various planes of existence. It's about a relationship that goes on for eternity. So you want to have some wisdom in who you're marrying. This is going to be the person you're going to partner with to raise a new kind of family, to bring forth a new kind of child. So therefore, marriage becomes a much bigger issue, I think, than we've ever thought. And that was why I wanted to start the story of Noah, because the world out there is drowning. We need to go into the ark of God with a partner and build the kingdom together. And yes, these are some of the challenges that come. Now, I've been very fortunate. I was guided to a woman I had never dated. I knew her peripherally, but I was guided to say, that's supposed to be the girl I'm supposed to marry. So I walked up to her. She was sitting in a car. I knew her. She's a member of my community. But she was 17 and a half years old. I was 20 years old, and I knew I needed a wife. Celibacy was not an easy thing, and I did not want to continue on that path. I needed a wife because I didn't want to break God's law. So I begged God to please let me know what the name of my wife is, so I could be patient while I waited for her to appear. And the name Joanne came to me. Now, this is insane. 2 o'clock in the morning, I get the name Joanne. I won't go into the whole story except to say, I only knew one girl named Joanne, and I went and proposed to her the next day. And she threw me out of her house. She said, I would never marry you. I don't care if you're the last man on earth. You're a nut, and I'm not marrying you. It took 2 weeks for me to gain that this was not the right girl. So I apologized to her publicly in front of all the community. I'm sorry that I put her through this, because they teased her unmercifully. Because I announced to everybody, I am marrying this girl. Her name is Joanne. She's the only Joanne I know, and I've been given an inspiration of God. I'm going to marry a girl named Joanne. Well, after that scenario, I was a little bit shaken. She was real cute, I have to admit. I thought God had really picked me a good one this time. Well, of course, she was ornery. I didn't count on that. Now, 2 weeks later, one of the girls invited not only the community, the local, but invited her next door neighbors. They happened to be 2 twin girls. One twin was named Joyce. The other one was named Joanne. I wound up marrying Joanne. My brother wound up marrying Joyce. I've been married 47 years to Joanne. And I tell you, we didn't even really know each other at all. But I felt so powerful, the insight that God guided me. And the interesting thing is, she says the first time she saw me, she just knew I was to be her husband. She changed churches. She was a Lutheran. She became a member of our church. She raised her hand and asked to be baptized and give her life to Christ. And she became a member of the church. And when that happened, I decided, well, she's probably the right Joanne. So we were at a conference, and I was giving a talk to the youth. I was 20. She was sitting in the car that we had drove up to the conference in, and I was walking towards the car, and I said, okay, Lord, is this it? Is this the girl I'm supposed to ask to marry? I said, give me a sign between the next 50 feet between here and when I get to the car that this is the one I'm supposed to marry. And all I can tell you is my chest started heaving. And this powerful, warm feeling came into my chest. My heart started beating. I said, okay, I get it. So I walked up and I put my foot on the running board. It was a beautiful 1940 Ford convertible. It was my car. A jewel of a car. Anybody who, yeah, well, that's another story. So I walked up to the car and I put my foot on the running board, and the windows were down, but it was kind of dark inside. I said, Joanne, are you in there? She said, poked her head out in the light hit her face. Yes, I'm here. She went back in. I said, Joanne, if I was to ask you to marry me, what would you say? She popped her head out. Are you serious? I said, yes, I'm serious. She popped her head out. I'd say yes with a big grin on her face. I opened the car door, I got inside, I took her in my arms, I kissed her, and I announced to the other youth, we are engaged. Now this is insane. Why am I telling you this? Yes, they say that when one is born of the Spirit and one really puts their trust in God, they behave like one drunk. They will say he is a man of strange behavior.